Yes, ladies, everyone ready with the attendance? Please switch on your mics. Okay. As I said, in the chat window, it will be a little difficult for me. So please switch on your mics. If you don't have a mic, then just let me know about it. Then you can write down your name in the chat box and I will mark you present after the class. Okay. But I'm sure everybody will have a mic, inshallah. Abir?
Present.
Al-Johara?
Present.
Alma? Alma Saud? Okay, Aya?
Present.
Dareen?
Present.
Dai?
Present.
Eva?
Present.
Thank you. Fatma?
Yes, miss.
Ghazal Fadi?
Present.
Ghada Fahad? Ghada Khalid? Ghada Muhammad?
Present.
Thank you. Ghadir?
I'm here.
Ghaida? Haifa?
Present.
Hana?
Present.
Adil?
Present.
Hind? Huda?
Present.
Huda Lindsay is there?
Yeah.
Jude?
Present.
Lina? Yes, sir. Okay. Lian?
Present.
Maisa? Munira?
Present.
Okay. Noor?
Present.
Okay. Noora?
Present.
Noor Basam?
Present.
Noora Sameer?
Present.
Noora Shaya?
Present.
Ragad Walid?
Present.
Raneem?
Present.
Rawa?
Present.
Razan?
Present.
Reem?
Present.
Reem Mohammed?
Yes, present.
Okay. And then we have Reem Hamad? Rawa Majid? Sara Umran?
Yes, miss. Present.
Sara Ahmed?
Present.
Shatha?
Present.
Wujdan? Okay.
Miss, I just joined the class.
It's 9:07. So next time, please join on time. What's your name?
Aida.
Ghaida?
Yes.
Okay.
Doctor, me too.
Sorry?
I joined at 9:02.
What's your name?
Alma.
Okay.
Doctor, me too.
What's your name?
غادة الملحم.
Sorry?
غادة الملحم.
Okay, so next time please join on time, Gada.
Doctor, okay. I wrote in the chat, I'm Ghada Fahad.
Okay, Gada Fahad. I told you need to switch on the mics. Okay, Gada
Sorry.
Fahad, give me a minute. Okay, Gada Fahad. Yes.
Maisa can't open her mic, but she wrote in the chat.
Okay, thank you, dear. Thank you, dear, for confirming it.
Nice. Doctor?
Yes?
I have a problem. I should join an 8 a.m. class, but I couldn't because I have technical issues. Can you take my attendance? I'm joining now. Dad Alfim.
But if you remember, I have already told you that if you have any issues, you need to send me an email. Right? Are you joining for the first time in this class?
Yeah, this is my first time.
No problem. I will mark you present. Just send me an email, okay? Don't worry. I'll mark you present. Just send me an email, okay? Don't worry.
Okay.
Okay. Let's start with the class. We finished last time larynx, right? That was the last organ which we discussed. We need to discuss trachea today. Okay. Okay, so we're going to discuss trachea today. Give me a minute. So, what happened to it? So is trachea, what kind of organ is trachea? Is it an upper respiratory tract organ or a lower respiratory tract organ?
Lower.
Lower, absolutely, very good. Yes, we spoke about it that trachea is a lower respiratory tract organ, isn't it? Okay, so if you look at the diagram over here, okay, we inhale the air, let me get a pen, we inhale the air through nose, okay, or we can inhale it through the mouth as well, okay. Then the air passes on to the pharynx. After passing on to the pharynx, it goes into the larynx, isn't it? It goes into the larynx, the sound box, right? So as it passes through the larynx, then the next organ through which the air is going to pass is the trachea. Okay, and let me show you another diagram for the trachea. Okay, that's how it looks like. Look at this. We inhale the air like through this, then goes through nasal cavity, nasopharynx, okay, and it comes down, okay, then passes here through what? Through the larynx, and then this is the trachea. This is the trachea, as you can see here, okay. And as you observe here in the structure, look at this. Trachea has what? As you can see here, trachea has these C-shaped cartilages. Can you see here? The whole trachea has like 15 to 20 C-shaped cartilages. Can you tell me why does it have cartilages? What is the role of cartilages? What role does the cartilages play in trachea? Why do we have so many incomplete C-shaped cartilages over here? Yes, ladies online? Do you have any idea? Protection, flexibility, okay, protection. Yes, absolutely. Rava and Noora. See, cartilages are there, number one, to protect the trachea. And number two, see, when air passes through it, imagine if it would have been like a small membranous thing, right? So the passing air through this membranous thing, there was a chance that it might collapse. Look at my hand. It might collapse like this, right? But since it has, these hyaline cartilages, hard hyaline cartilages, those hyaline cartilages harder than the elastic one, right? So since it has these C-shaped cartilages, so these C-shaped cartilages does not allow trachea to collapse. It allows it to remain intact, stable, right? And rigid, so that air can easily pass through it. Did you understand? That is the main job of having cartilages in the trachea, right? Because trachea is one of the most important passageways, because finally the air reaches through the trachea, and then we'll talk about the primary bronchi, and then goes into the lungs. We will discuss that in a while. What else you need to know about the trachea? If you see here, they have just taken one ring of the trachea to show you how does it look like. Okay, as you can see here, look at this. This is an incomplete. What's wrong with it? This is an incomplete C-shaped cartilage. The cartilage is not a complete ring. Remember that. It's not completely circulating the trachea. It's a C-shaped, horseshoe-shaped cartilage. Okay, so it looks something like this, like this, like this. not a complete ring. And I'll tell you why we don't have a complete ring over there. Okay? And as you can see here, behind it, it has a muscle over here, okay, which is called as a trachealis. This is a trachealis muscle, which is a smooth muscle. Okay? Now, if you remember, I told you last time, for example, if I'm taking food in, okay, or air in, what happens? It goes from my mouth, okay, then goes into the pharynx, okay. If it's food, where will it go? It will, after pharynx, it will continue into esophagus, which is present posteriorly, isn't it? If you, of course not, right? So if you see here, these are two passageways, okay? So esophagus is somewhere here at the posterior side. Esophagus is here, okay? This is my, for example, larynx over here, and then this is my trachea over here. So that means where is my esophagus present? It's present behind or posterior to my windpipe or posterior to my trachea, because the common name of trachea is a windpipe, the pipe through which wind can pass, through which air can pass. So from the front, as you can see here in my throat, this is my Adam's apple over here, right? The thyroid cartilage, we spoke about it. This is the largest cartilage in the larynx. So this is my thyroid cartilage. As I go down, look at my finger. This is all my what? Trachea. And posterior to it, I have an esophagus. So you can analyze that. If this is a part of my trachea, posterior to it, so this is then my, what is this? Esophagus, isn't it? Now, why do we have a trachealis muscle over here? And why do we have this incomplete C-shaped cartilages? The reason for that is just because that, for example, if I was so hungry, okay, I just got a pizza and I hogged on the pizza and I took a big bite of pizza. If I take a big bite of pizza, imagine if this ring would have been a complete ring like this. What will happen? There was no chance of esophagus expanding, right? So this trachealis muscle goes to the front. Okay, imagine that this much opening will be there for the esophagus if I eat a big chunk of food, big chunk of pizza. That is why the cartilages are not complete in the trachea, okay? And this is the reason why we have a trachealis muscle. At that time, the trachealis muscle will contract, expanding what? Esophagus, so that food can easily pass through it. See, God had planned everything. He knew what to do, right? He knew what to do. Guys, did you all understand the online one? Online people? Is it clear? Subhanallah, absolutely haifa. Definitely, no? He knew everything. So he planned each and every part of the body accordingly. Okay? So this is the reason why the cartilages are not complete. And I told you that we definitely need cartilages because cartilages are so very important. It keeps the entire trachea, you know, a stiff tube. It behaves as a stiff tube, not a tube which is collapsing like this. Okay, it doesn't collapse just because the hard hyaline cartilages are there. Okay, so that's all you need to know about the trachea, nothing much. Okay, and which organ comes, because we're doing, you know, we are moving from the nose till going down. We finished the nasal part, then we finished the pharynx part, then we went to the larynx, and after larynx we have trachea. Now what do we have after trachea? So the esophagus is a circle and the trachea is a C-shape. No, Huda. C-shaped is a tracheal cartilage, Huda. The esophagus is like a complete tube, and so is your trachea. Both of them are, you know, as you can see here, let me get my pen. So, Huda, the esophagus is like a tube, okay? And so is your trachea like a tube. It is also a tube. We were just talking about these incomplete C-shaped cartilages. These C-shaped cartilages, right? They are C-shaped, not your trachea. How can your trachea be C-shaped? Okay, no issue. See this chat box. What happens to this? Okay. Now, what do we have after this? Now, before that, I wanted to tell you one more thing. If you look at this diagram very carefully, I had it somewhere here. Look at this diagram. This is a bigger one than the other one. Okay. If you see here, I have small, what are these? These are cilia, isn't it? We spoke about last time that the respiratory system is lined by the pseudo-stratified epithelium, right? A ciliated one. It has, these hair-like projections called as cilia. Can you see cilia everywhere? Look at it. Everywhere we have cilia. What is the role played by cilia? What is the job of cilia? Yes, very good. So for example, you know that it has goblet cells which produce mucus. So mucus is very thick and sticky. So as I take the air in, I might inhale so many bacteria. So all the bacteria are going to stick where? In the thick mucus. And the job of the cilia is, look at my fingers. As the cilia move, right? What is it doing? It's trying to push away, not towards. Push away the mucus. Either there are two choices for you. Either it's taken away and sent to the pharynx, right? The pharynx, the throat. So in the pharynx, there are two choices for you. Either you swallow it in the stomach, that it goes out through the excretory organs, or sometimes, when we are sick, there's a lot of mucus production. We can't swallow so much. So some of it comes in the mouth as well. So either it's sent to the mouth, but most of the time it's sent to the stomach. It's pushed away till it reaches the pharynx. From the pharynx, we swallow it and send it to the stomach. Then it gets out of the body through excretory system, along with the bacteria and all, right? So the thing is that this is the job played by cilia, plays a very, very important role in the respiratory system. My question to everybody, to online as well as you, have you ever noticed cigarette smokers? Why do they all the time cough? Because they produce? Yes. Online people also, why cigarette smokers cough all the time? Have you noticed that? Yes, dear. No, just because they're smoking. Never. Yeah, that's true actually. But but that's not the reason. Online people, their body tries to get rid of the unwanted substance. What about our body? We don't get unwanted substance, Noor.
Is it because the cilia don't work as well?
Yes. Who is this? Is it?
It's Ghanim.
Yeah, yes, Rani, absolutely. I could recognize your voice. Yes, you're right. See, what happens in smokers, thank you, Rani. What happens in smokers is that, the cilia, as they smoke, because of smoking, the cilia are paralyzed. What's the paralysis? They become immobile. The cilia cannot move, they're paralyzed. Okay. Now they have cilia, Huda, they have cilia, right? But the cilia are paralyzed. They cannot, look at my fingers, they cannot move like this, they cannot beat like this, they're paralyzed. So as cilia are paralyzed, okay, so what happens? We have a natural mechanism. If you have a lot of mucus in the throat, right? If your cilia cannot remove it, then there's something called a natural reflux starts, which is a cough reflux, right? You start or even if there's some disturbance in the throat, right? Or if some particle goes into the throat, we start coughing. It's a natural reflux. So for them also, since cilia cannot move like this and they cannot remove the mucus laid with the bacteria, so for them, the mucus always stays there in the pharynx. As a result, the cough reflux is always active. So that is why you'll see them, they continuously cough if it's a chain smoker. Did you all understand? What is the reason behind smokers coughing all the time? Right? So if you have someone around, so you can suggest them not to smoke. Right? Okay, then other than that, now after that, which organ we're going to talk about? So that was all about the trachea. We're going to talk about now, if we go here, okay, we're going to talk about now the lungs. We are going to soon enter into the lungs. But before we enter the lungs, we see that the trachea divides into, the trachea divides into, let me get a pen. The trachea divides, if this is the trachea, it divides or it forms a fork-like thing. So this is called as a bronchus. This is called as a bronchus. Bronchus is a word, a singular word, and bronchi is for the plural, if you have two of them, right? So trachea divides into the bronchus, right? Or bronchi, and this bronchi enters into the lungs. So we have a small kind of, depression over there called as a hilum. Through that, it enters into the lungs, right? So before we could discuss how this bronchi further divides into primary, secondary, tertiary bronchi, let's talk about the lungs first, okay? So lungs, we know that they are surrounding the heart, surrounding the mediastinum, isn't it? They're in the thoracic cavity, okay, here, okay? And if you look at the lungs, it has this portion, which is a little pointed. It is called as an apex. This one is an apex, which is towards the clavicle, isn't it? At the top. And then it also has a base. This is a base of the lung. It rests on the diaphragm, a muscle called as diaphragm. Then look at this. We have fissures, like this is a horizontal fissure, okay? This is an oblique fissure. This is also an oblique fissure, which divides the lungs into various lobes, okay? So how many lobes do we have in the right lung and how many in the left lung? How many lobes? Mm-hmm. 3 lobes, right? Isn't it? 1, 2, 3 in the right lung, and only 1 and 2 in the left lung. Why do we have only 2 lobes in the left lung? What do you think? It has only 2 lobes. Because we have heart nearby, isn't it? Yes, somebody said that? We have heart nearby, isn't it? Because of the heart, the left lung is pushed a little bit, right? So that's why the left lung is smaller than the right lung. So that's why we have only 3 lobes in the right lung and only 2 lobes in the left lung. Now, what are the membranes which cover the lung? If you remember last semester, we spoke about what are the membranes? Anyone? Mm-hmm. No, that is there, but we have something else as well. Yes, online ladies? Yes, serous membranes, absolutely. We spoke about the serous membranes last semester, right? So lungs are covered by the serous membrane, okay? And the membrane, which is covering the innermost membrane, which is covering the lung. Look at the tissue. Look at my hand. This is my hand. Say, suppose this is lung. And look at this tissue. This is covering the lung, right? So this membrane is what is the membrane for? What is the name for the membrane, serous membrane of the lungs called? We have a special name. For example, serous membrane for the abdominal cavity, it's called as a peritoneum. Peritoneum for the heart. Yes, dear?
Pleural membrane.
Yes, please go ahead. Pleural membrane, absolutely. Isn't it? So the serous membrane for the lungs is called the pleural membrane. So this is my visceral pleura. Look at my hand. This is my lung. It's covered by a membrane, which is called the visceral pleura. It is the innermost membrane, okay? But look at this, it's covering my lung, okay? And say this hand is my body cavity, this body cavity, okay? And look at the other tissue. This tissue is covering my what? Body cavity. So what is this one called? This one is a visceral pleura. This one is a parietal pleura. you understand? So this is the innermost, this is the outermost. In between the two, I have a cavity. So this is called the pleural cavity, and it's filled with a fluid called the pleural fluid. But then the question says that, which is the outermost membrane of the lungs? So will you say the parietal or the visceral, the parietal or the visceral? Which one is the outermost? Is the visceral?
Parietal.
No, 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 no. It's not the parietal, it's the visceral. This is the most common mistake done by everyone. I showed her in the class, I'll show you on the diagram as well. See, ladies, let me erase this. Okay. It's not the parietal, it's the visceral. Why do I say so? If you see here, this is the membrane, which is the innermost pleural membrane, called as the visceral pleura, isn't it? So this is the visceral pleura, right? And then I have another membrane which is covering the body wall. Remember, it's covering the body wall. Look at it, it's covering the body wall. Okay, so this one is called as the parietal pleura, isn't it? So this one is covering the body wall, not covering my lungs. So which one is now the outermost membrane? Visceral or the parietal? I don't know who was that. Is it the visceral now? Isn't it? So your visceral is the outermost membrane of the lungs, because parietal is there on the body wall. Okay, and what is the space between the two called? The space is called as a parietal cavity, right? Sorry, pleural cavity, right? And the fluid is called as a pleural fluid, right? And this cavity is very, very important. And look at my hand. As the lungs are expanding and relaxing, right? So this cavity gives it ample space so that it can expand and relax. And at the same time, the fluid here is going to minimize the friction. Okay, it's going to minimize the friction. So fluid, cavity, both of them are very, very important, right? Is it clear to everyone about the visceral pleura and the parietal pleura? Any questions till now? Okay, look at this. Okay, all clear. So this is the mediastinum, as you can see over here. Get the pen. This is the mediastinum, which has the heart, which has the thymus, which has the aorta, other blood vessels, right? And look at this, lungs are surrounding the mediastinum. They're surrounding the mediastinum. Now, after trachea, what do we have? After trachea, as I said that, after trachea, it divides into what? Into primary. Bronchi is a plural and bronchus is a singular. And you'll see that it will keep on dividing. Look at this. This is the primary bronchi. The primary bronchi will keep on dividing the way we have roots, you know, roots or branches, tree branches, they keep on dividing. So you'll see soon see that it divides continuously, forming the secondary bronchi, then the tertiary bronchi, and then deep down we have the smaller ones called as the bronchioles. So trachea, primary bronchi, secondary bronchi, and then the tertiary bronchi, and then the smaller one, the thinner ones called as the bronchioles. Now, it doesn't stop over there. After bronchioles, we have bronchiole, then we have a terminal bronchiole, okay, then we have the respiratory bronchiole, then we have the alveolar duct, we have the alveolar sac, we have the alveoli. So alveoli is the last balloon-shaped organ in which actually the exchange would take place. But there are a lot of questions which are usually asked. So what I did is I made this flow chart so that you never forget about it. Okay, if you look at the flow chart, now everyone please pay attention. This is the trachea. This is the trachea, right? Primary bronchi, primary bronchi. Secondary bronchi, this secondary bronchi. Tertiary bronchi, this is tertiary bronchi. Bronchioles, bronchioles, right? They further divide, forming what? The terminal bronchioles, terminal bronchioles. But they keep on dividing further, okay? Forming the respiratory bronchioles. Respiratory one is shown over here. Look at this. The terminal one is still dividing again. Look at this, forming what? The respiratory bronchioles. The respiratory one further divides, forming what? The duct, the alveolar duct. Okay, so as you can see here, we have the duct. Duct is something like, it's still dividing. Okay, and then after duct, we have the alveolar sac and the alveoli. And the question is, what is the difference between alveolar sac and the alveoli? Yes, online people and you tell me, what is the difference between alveolar sac and the alveoli? Ladies. Anyone? Haifa, Shatha, Raneem, Reem. Yes, dear? No. No. Okay, I'll tell you what is the difference. See, what is the difference between alveolar sac and the alveoli? Cluster is the sac. Yes, yes. Do you eat grapes? You eat grapes, right? So for example, if I have something like this, then you have grapes which look like this. You got a big bunch of grapes, right? You got a big bunch of grapes, correct? So the big bunch of grapes together, it's called as an alveolar. It's alveolar sac. All the bunch of grapes together. Look at this. So this whole bunch is called as what? The alveolar sac. All the alveoli together. If I take one grape from it, I just took one grape to eat, right? So this will be alveoli. Did you understand? And the exchange of oxygen and removing the carbon dioxide takes place in this alveoli. In this alveoli. So the exchange takes place where? Exchange of O2 and carbon dioxide takes place in the alveoli. Because soon you will see that it's surrounding a lot of blood vessels. Okay, so exchange would take place here. So did you all understand, online people? What is the difference between alveolar sac and the alveoli? Yes. Now a very important thing to note. Usually we are being asked, tell me the structures which belong to the respiratory zone, okay, or the structures which belong to the conducting zone. Now what is the conducting zone? So like respiratory zone structures, okay, respiratory zone structures and the conducting zone structures. You need to know this. If the question says that, you should be in a position to say that, oh, this is a respiratory zone structure and this is a conducting zone. Conducting zone means as I'm inhaling in, air passes through, for example, through nose, through pharynx, through larynx, through trachea, right? Then the primary bronchiole, secondary, tertiary bronchi, and finally reaches to bronchioles. And let me show you. Okay, from push this away. Let me get it down. Okay, so what are the structures which are counted in the conducting zone, through which air passes? In these areas, exchange will not take place. They're just passageways, If you have to come to this room, you came to the door, then the corridor, then stairs, then lift, the next corridor, right? The conducting zone. Then here we have a class. So alveoli is something where the exchange will take place, right? So everyone please pay attention. Trachea to terminal bronchioles. These are called as, what are they called? Conducting zone. Is it clear? So these are called as conduct, that means air passes through all this. And then finally, let me get another color now. Then finally, you have respiratory bronchioles, respiratory, alveolar, alveolar sac and alveoli. These all are called as what? Respiratory zone. Is it clear? Now you might think that, oh my God, why did she write respiratory bronchioles, alveolar duct, alveolar sac, all these in the respiratory zone? Even though she said that exchange takes place only in the alveoli, isn't it? Did you all understand what I'm trying to ask? You should have asked me a question. Why did you count these as a respiratory zone? And especially, what is the difference between terminal bronchioles and the respiratory bronchioles? Why did you say that terminal one is a conducting zone? Oh, what's wrong with it? Terminal one is a conducting zone, while as the respiratory one is a respiratory bronchiole is a respiratory zone. You should ask me a question. Why this? Isn't it? This is like a thing to think about, isn't it? So why is it so? Does anyone have the answer for this? But the exchange does not take place in the terminal bronchioles. No. Let me erase this, guys. Give me a minute. I'm going to erase this. Meanwhile, you think about it. I'll tell you. Yes, yeah, very good question. I'll tell you. Sac is something, you know. Sac is something like this. A sac, you know, like a one big balloon. Like, you know, a balloon which is surrounded by the blood vessels, and exchange will take place, okay, within the alveolar. Okay, so you have sac and alveolar, you're asking, right? I'll explain you now. Okay, duct and sac. Okay, duct is like this. Duct is, this board has a problem. I need to put the eraser back. Hold on. Pen. Okay. Duct and sac, right? Duct is like this. This is a duct. You know, have you ever seen that? You know, small grapes are there on a small, you know, kind of, you know, a small stick there. So grape is attached to it. So this duct is something, you know, to which the sacs are attached. So this is a duct. So this is a duct. Got it? So that's the difference between duct and the sac. Okay. Now the question is, why do we count respiratory bronchioles in the respiratory zone, while as a terminal one into the, this is always a point of confusion with students. So please pay attention, everyone. Observe this structure very carefully. This is my terminal bronchiole, correct? This is the terminal bronchiole. Observe it very carefully. Do I have any alveoli on it? Is there any alveoli on it? No.
No.
Isn't it? As they divide, they form the respiratory bronchioles. So these are the so do I have any alveoli on the respiratory bronchioles? No, I haven't. Look at this. This is all my respiratory bronchioles. I don't have many, but I might have, no, 1, 2, 3, isn't it? They are lying on the respiratory bronchioles, but I don't have any in the terminal one, right? So this is the reason why the terminal bronchiole is considered as what? A conducting zone structure, while as the respiratory, the respiratory bronchioles are considered as in the respiratory zone and not in the conducting zone. Did you all understand, ladies, online?
Doctor, can you please
Yes, clear,
repeat?
doctor.
I will repeat it. Don't worry. I will repeat it. Okay. Let me erase it. Give me a minute. Observe the diagram very carefully. Okay. I said that terminal bronchiole is present in the conducting zone. The reason for that is, if you observe the terminal bronchiole, ladies online, do I have any alveolar sac or alveoli on the terminal bronchiole? Do I have it? Is there any sac over here like this?
No.
There's no
No.
sac, right? There's no sac over here. So that is why it's considered as a conducting zone, right? But then if you observe the respiratory bronchiole, look at this. This is my respiratory bronchiole. I don't have many, but I just have few of the alveoli on my respiratory bronchiole. So that is why respiratory bronchiole is there in the respiratory zone. Is it clear? And now the question is, why duct, sac, and respiratory bronchiole are all considered as a respiratory zone? Right? The reason is because, the same reason, because if you observe the respiratory bronchiole, the duct, and the sac, all of them have what? Alveoli on it, right? Look at this. This is my respiratory bronchiole. It has alveoli on it. This is my duct. It has plenty of alveoli on it, isn't it? Isn't it? So, right? And then sac it is a bunch of what? Alveoli. So that is why they are considered as a respiratory zone. But you have to remember that the exchange will take place where? Exchange will take place, CH. The exchange will take place only where? Only in the alveoli. Is it clear to everyone? Any questions now? You have to memorize it, yeah, because they have the alveoli. That is why respiratory bronchioles, alveolar duct, alveolar sac, right? They all are considered in the respiratory zone. Any questions about it? Ladies online?
Clear, doctor.
Okay, good. This is all everything which I explained to you. All clear, okay. So, do we have, okay, this is a respiratory tree. This is a respiratory tree, isn't it? You know, you have a trachea, which divides into primary bronchi, okay, and then it divides into secondary, primary, secondary, tertiary, right? So, will the exchange take place in the respiratory tree? The exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide? It will not take place, right? It will take place only where? At the end, where you have the respiratory zone structures. Of what? Alveoli. I said the exchange. I said it's like a balloon. Think that you have a balloon, and surrounding the balloon you have blood vessels. So it's the right place where the oxygen will go into the blood and the carbon dioxide from the blood will come into the sac. That is a real place where the exchange will take place. Right? So we discussed all this, okay? Now we have basically, as we go deep down towards these structures, let me erase this now. As we go deep down, okay, so this is having a cartilage, cartilage, right? If you see, they have cartilages, right? But as we go deep down here, these structures, the cartilage keeps on decreasing. Okay, the cartilage keeps on decreasing. And then you will have what? More and more smooth muscles. Right? And even the ciliated epithelia. We saw that the whole respiratory tract has a ciliated epithelia. As we go deep down, there's no cilia after that. There's no cilia after that. Okay, because after that, as we go deep down here, the cilia does not give us protection because it will interfere with the exchange of oxygen, right? Then we have the macrophages there. Okay, then we have the macrophages there, which will give us protection rather than having the cilia. So, as we go deep down, what happens? The cartilage keeps on decreasing and the smooth muscles keep on increasing, right? And as we go deep down, the cilia keeps on decreasing. And finally, we don't have cilia. Then we have macrophages there in the lungs, which give us protection if there's any microorganism which has managed to reach deep down. No, of course not, as we go deep down. So is it clear, everyone? Ladies, online?
Yes, doctor, it's clear.
Okay, great, thank you. Okay, and not only that, as we move towards the alveoli, look at this. What is this whole thing now? This is a duct, isn't it? Oh, what's wrong with it? Okay, look at this. This is a duct, isn't it? This is a duct. This whole thing is called as what? Sac. Very good. This is a sac. If I take one out of it, that is the alveoli, right? Now, even the membrane keeps on changing. As I go towards the alveolar sac, I don't have pseudo-stratified epithelia. Of course not. Because I have what? The oxygen has, this has oxygen, right? Oxygen has to go into the blood, right? At this place. Imagine if I have a pseudo-stratified epithelia, which might be too thick. I have a thin epithelia, which is called as a simple squamous epithelium. Remember last semester? The epithelium, which is what? Which is something like this, very, very thin. So in the alveoli, what do we have? We have the simple squamous epithelia, and they all are connected. You see the pores here? They are connected to each other. Then your lungs deep down is full of these balloons, full of these alveolar sac, when they're connected to each other through the alveolar pores. Then there's something called as a respiratory membrane. What is a respiratory membrane? It's also called as an air-blood barrier. Very, very important. This is the place where I might have a, let me get another color. Give me a minute. Okay, this is the place where if I have a sac like this, okay, and this sac will have a capillary membrane. Let me get another color. Okay, I have a blood capillary here, right? So this is the place where I have a, this is my what? Blood capillary, isn't it? And this is my what? Alveoli. So here, this place is a place where actually the oxygen carbon dioxide will take place. And it is called as a respiratory membrane. Very, very important. The real place where the exchange will take place. Look at this. I'll show you now. This side, I have what? The alveoli. And this side, I have a blood vessel. So this is called as a respiratory membrane. So both of them, from the blood vessel side, or the blood capillary side, it's made up of simple squamous epithelia, and from the alveoli, it's made up of simple squamous epithelia. It's an epithelial tissue. They will have a basement membrane, right? If you have an epithelial tissue like this, it has a basement membrane on which it rests, right? So basement membrane of the blood, simple squamous epithelia, and basement membrane of the alveoli, simple squamous epithelia, they are fused. The basement membranes are fused like, look at my hands. It's fused like this, right? So the yellow one which you see here is the fused basement membrane of what? Of both the epithelia. One from the blood and one from the alveoli. So the exchange will actually take place as, look at the oxygen is going into the blood, the carbon dioxide is coming out. This is the structure shown by the, this is your one alveolar, one balloon. Okay? Is it clear? Okay? And if you see here we have two types of cells. Okay? We have simple squamous epithelia, which will look like this. This might be simple squamous epithelia. But there are some cuboidal cells also, like cube-shaped cells also in between. Like this is my simple squamous epithelia. Then I have a cube-shaped cell like this. A cube shape, not this tall. Did you all understand? What do I have? Where am I right now? Inside the alveolar sac. Okay? So what are these cube-shaped cells? What is the function of these cube-shaped cells? They are called as the surfactant secreting cells. Online people, did you understand? We are within the alveoli right now. Did you all understand what is the respiratory membrane? Any questions about it? Okay. Now, what is a surfactant? Okay. Surfactant is something, you can say, a lipid and a protein material secreted by this cell, let me show you, secreted by this cell, this tall cell which you see here. See here. It secretes, a sticky fluid called as a surfactant, okay, which is nothing but it's a combination of what hydrophilic and hydrophobic molecules. That is why lipoprotein, or lipids and the proteins together, okay. And this surfactant is like, it's like a layer. Let me show you here. It's like a layer which is surrounding within the alveoli, like this. Okay, like you can see a lipid protein layer surrounding within the alveoli. You might think that what is the function of it? I will not go into details of it. There are many things which we need to know about it, but it's not there in the book, so we'll not just expand our lecture. So, what is the function of the surfactant? Surfactant is there. Okay, it does not allow the alveoli to collapse in between the breathing. When I'm inhaling like this, then I take the air out, right? So I want my alveoli to be, like a balloon. They should be always like this. They should not be collapsed like this, right? So we don't want them to collapse, right? So this surfactant prevents the collapsing of the alveoli. This is so very important. It starts secreting, when the baby is in the mother's womb, like towards the last months, like 36 week, like 34, 36 week, it starts secreting. That is why sometimes you might have heard that babies who are born premature, they are usually put on the respiratory system support, isn't it? Because their lung cells are not in a position to secrete the surfactant. So they cannot, they have a problem in inflating their alveoli. That is why premature babies, because their surfactant is not yet produced, or even if it's produced, it is produced very less, because we produce it more towards the end of the pregnancy. That is why you might have seen that if the female, she says, I am so fed up of pregnancy, go ahead and do surgery. I'm due now, I'm 37 weeks. I want to get rid of this pregnancy now quickly. The doctor would say, no, the baby's lungs are not fully mature yet, because lungs are something, which mature till the end. Do you understand? So we want the surfactant to be produced, because without that, the baby will not be able to inflate. So that is why we have to put them on the external support. Guys, do you all understand what is the role of surfactant? Like it's present in all the sacs, Haifa. It's covering, did you see the yellow colored line? It's covering all the sacs. It's covering all the sacs, as you see here. Guys, did you all understand what is the role of surfactant? A very important thing. Okay, any questions about it? Yes, so that is why, as I said, that is for premature babies, you need to put them on the support, on the external respiratory support, right? And then we also have, other than that, we also have these green colored macrophages. As I told you, there's no cilia there. The macrophages which give us protection in the alveolar sac. I think we stop over here and then we can start with the respiratory physiology on Sunday. I wish you all the very best, everyone. Have a wonderful weekend. If you have a question, please stay back. Rest of you can leave. Happy weekend to everyone.